Hi again, I'm Scott Raffa. I'm a neurosurgeon here at the Paley Institute and the Cantor Spine Center in West Palm Beach, Florida and Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So what's the difference between three words that sound very similar? Spondylosis, spondylolysis, and spondylolisthesis. These terms are quite common. We probably talk about them daily, if not weekly, amongst our patients and what we find on imaging studies and what we can examine for, etc. So what are these common words? Spondylosis, spondylolysis, and spondylolisthesis even mean? So the first part of that's probably pretty easy, which is spondylo, the first prefix. What does that mean? It means the vertebra or the bone, one of the bones of the spine, has a problem. There is a disease or an issue with that bone. And then the second half of each one is what we're going to go into. So the first one is called spondylosis. Spondylosis is the degenerative wear and tear and age-related changes of the spine. It's basically a form of osteoarthritis in common terms as we describe it, and it's the age-related changes and even breakdown of the spine as we go through life. Now, this can happen very silently, can happen not so silently, and patients have symptoms and they suffer, in fact, but it's actually part of how we develop and the spine stiffens and hardens over time, almost as a protective measure against other issues. But when that happens too much, just like in the hands where you can't get your ring off your finger anymore, your knuckles hurt, your wrist hurts, all that arthritis builds up, those joints are suffering. And when you see that in a focal area of the spine, we call that term spondylosis. So once again, spondylosis is the first term, age-related changes and degeneration and wear and tear of the spine. Number two, what is spondylolysis? The second half of that term is lysis. Spondylolysis is the breaking of that bone. Now, the whole thing didn't just break, but where did it break? There's a very specific part of that bone, and we can go into those details in another article. I'd be happy to and want to. But that piece of bone is quite special because it connects one bone of the spine to the neighboring bone. And that part is called the pars interarticularis, or pars of the spine. That part of the spine, or that bone, is what holds one part to the next. So when you have a fracture of that, you have a lysis of that, you have a broken bone in a very specific part of the spine. Once again, the term there is spondylolysis. And then the last term, number three, spondylolisthesis. The second half of that term is listhesis. What does that mean? Well, that's actually something that's quite common, probably very common. And we see it easily weekly or daily and treat that quite often. That is a slipped disc of the spine. Probably the most common and well understood things that we deal with as spine surgeons. That slipped disc is the alignment. It's the slippage of one bone next to the other bone, and it can cause a variety of symptoms. Those symptoms can be pain, leg pain, a sciatica, sensory changes, difficulty with walking, etc. So again, that term, that last term, is called spondylolisthesis. All of them say spondy in the beginning, but you're either dealing with the age-related changes of the spine, spondylosis, a specific fracture of one of those bones, spondylolysis, or the entire alignment is changed, spondylolisthesis.